Good morning. I thought I'd show you what it is I do to put together my masks. I work assembly line style, so everything I do, each step is done for all the masks I'm making in a joint period, usually about 100, and then I move on to the next set when I'm done. So in this case, I have already cut out a bunch of 11-inch squares using one of my quilting rulers, and I've taken the 11-inch squares and just folded them in half, right sides together, and stitch down the two short ends, leaving the one big end open. Now occasionally when I'm cutting the squares out, I end up with some of the selvage, or even slightly less than square, which is okay because I'm gonna, by the end steps, I'll be cutting away about an inch worth of the fabric here. It's just a square is faster to cut, and my goal is exclusively speed. So now I'm at the step where I would be turning them all inside out, and I grab them by the bottom corners, stick my thumbs up into the corners, and flip them, shake, drop. And I just continue to do that until I've turned all of them out. In this case, I'm really gonna do 3 of them because I'd just like to show you a little bit of each step here. So I've flipped 3 of my masks at this point, and then I'm gonna move my sewing machine into place, and I'm gonna grab a handful of my elastics, which were all cut bulk style. In fact, one of my little books is exactly the right size that if I wrap the elastic around it, I can cut one of the 2 sizes I do. For small masks, I cut 8 3/4 inch elastic. For large masks, I cut 9 3/4 inch elastic. And so this is what I use to cut that elastic. Then I take the item that's now cut, I line it up at my machine and start on one corner. Now the corners are the easy part. You know where the corner is, so you don't have to mark anything. And I use a zigzag stitch, which I always forget to switch to, literally every single time. And so the first of any batch has a little straight stitch before the zig. Then I put the one corner on and I wait until I hit, there's a point marked on my machine on this other side that tells me where the second elastic goes. And so I pop that elastic on, go back and forth over it, come to the mark on my machine here that tells me it's time for my second elastic, pop it on, back and forth, and then all that's left is my final elastic, which will happen at the corner. Placement doesn't have to be perfect. I hit the thread cut button if you happen to have one. It's worth taking a moment to hit it there. If you don't, it's okay. You can use the cutter on your machine or almost anything else in order to just take a quick snip of all of them at once at the end. So it's perfectly fine either way. If I happen to overshoot, which I do sometimes when I'm watching something, I just zigzag backwards until I hit it because the goal isn't beautiful, the goal isn't perfect, the goal is quick and does the job. And so this is pretty much what I'll be doing for, this time I've got batches of 120 actually, so I'll be doing it for 120 masks once I get done showing you on these 3. So that's the second mask, third mask pops up, and again, if the corners aren't turned out perfectly or whatever, it doesn't really matter. It's an approximate face size. I package these up and call them small, medium, and medium large to give people a general idea of how they might fit. But in the end, I'm not making custom matches for people's faces or face sizes, right? I'm just doing as generically quick a job as I can so that I can get some items out there that help people not to spread coronavirus if they're an asymptomatic person, right? So I've grabbed those and I've cut off on the end. Because I didn't hit cut in between, I am just taking my snips and snipping each one. Now that they're like this, I take them in a row and I fold them in half, good sides together. So you can see the place I sewed the elastic on is on the outer edge here, right? So I put them in half, good sides together. The other thing you'll notice is that my marks have allowed my elastics to be lined up exactly right. So that's all good. And flip and flip And now that I've got them lined up like this, I use the piece that I cut out from my pattern. Mine is from ragmask.org. It's a pattern that was designed to be quick and easy. I've adapted it a little bit because I do put good sides together instead of bad sides together, because I want to seal that final seam in. To me, that's important for washability and not having to cut threads all the time. So now I attempt really hard to remember to put it back to a straight stitch. I put my pattern directly on top as I'm lifting it up. I line the bottom edge up, and you can see that my elastics line up with the little marks on the page as well. And then I get started with a quick back and forth at the top, follow around my edge, and at the bottom I go backwards and then I cut my thread. That way I don't have to actually cut a little end when I'm done. And it just moves lickety-split along like this until all three are done. Normally, as I say, I'd have a row of 100 sitting here waiting to go, because for me, I find it mentally easier and it's a little bit faster if I'm going in a assembly line style through them. And perfect matching at the top or the bottom is not the goal here. The goal is quick and usable. So once that's completed, I can use my rotary cutter, but I've actually found for me it's a little easier just to grab my scissors. And I grab my scissors and I cut around the curved edge for all three of them. I usually do the cutting directly over a garbage can, which I have next to me, but that wouldn't be real visible, and I'm afraid if I move the camera it's going to fall down, go boom. So not doing that. Do that. Once they're all cut, I just I put my finger in this center part where the stitch is, flip them right side out, throw it down, flip it, toss it, etc. until all are done. Once they're all done, I actually go through, and part of how I keep count on them is that I lay them up and I stack them on each other in stacks of 10, which lets me know how many I've gotten done of each size. For me, it's a real satisfying number. And then I lay them flat before popping them into the wash. They work really well that way, and it keeps the elastics from getting tied up, but it still frays the threading in the middle so that it's locked. And if you look, again, you can see the outside, because I happen to use just whatever bobbin thread is available to me, is not always what I'd call pretty, but it's definitely functional. I have one here that I made earlier for my collection, and you just stick your nose in there, pop it over your ears. The hemmed end is at the bottom, the zigzag stitch is at the top, and it works like that. I've worn these to the grocery store and other places. The other nice thing is with the elastic, generally speaking, as you're stitching the elastic on, it lays flat anyway as you bring it around, but if it curls a little bit, it's okay. And so it can be done really, really quickly. Anyway, that's it. That's my methodology. So me and my anxiety are going to have an awesome time today, hopefully finishing 120 to 240 masks, depending on a couple of other little things. The other final thing that I do is that I have these baggies I've put together. These are the instructions from the CDC website on their recommendation for mask wearing, and then I print on them whatever size mask I happen to be making, so that when someone receives the mask, it's really clear what size it is, but they also have instructions on there for the fact that they can be cleaned in your washer and dryer, and how you should remove them using the elastic, not touching the body of the mask, and things like that. So anyway, I hope you have a great day. Bye.